and welcome back to my channel. It's Friday morning and I was about to make some chicken stock, homemade chicken stock or chicken broth. And I thought, why not make a video and show you how I do that. So if you've never made chicken broth before, or your own chicken stock, and you're thinking it's something you'd like to do, I'm going to show you the most simple way to do it that is pretty foolproof. You can make it either in a slow cooker, which a lot of people have on hand and you just cook it all day, or in a pressure cooker. I'm going to use a pressure cooker today only because I'm limited in time and I want to show you the whole process. And if I wait until the end of the day, I'll be out and about doing, pickups of children and things like that. So I thought I'll do it in the pressure cooker so it's quicker. But pretty much they are the same concept. That you do it exactly the same. It's just in the slow cooker. You would cook it on low for at least 6 to 8 hours. So just let it go all day. And the pressure cooker does the same thing, but it just cooks it in a much shorter amount of time. But I'm going to show you how I do it so that you can have a go yourself. A couple of things that I've got is my chicken carcass. So if you've had a roast chicken for dinner, all your carcass and whatever bits that didn't get eaten, you can pop it in the fridge and then the next day make your chicken stock. Or if you haven't got time, so we actually had this over a week ago, I just popped it in the freezer. So I put it in a freezer bag, I popped it in the freezer, and I took it out the other day to defrost it in the fridge, and now it's ready to go. So if you haven't got time, that's fine. Just go and pop it in the freezer. You can come back to it on a weekend or something like that. It doesn't have to be a homemade roast chicken. It could be a rotisserie chicken that you've bought from the supermarket. That is perfectly fine. It works great. And it's a good way to get the most out of your roast chicken. So, often we just throw the carcass and the rest of it out, but you can actually take that one next step and make yourself some lovely homemade chicken stock that then you can use for soup and other things that you might be using or making throughout the coming weeks. So that's my chicken carcass here. Some onions. I've got a few of these very large shallots that came in my farmer's pick box. So I'm going to just use those, but you can use just a regular brown onion. I've got a carrot and I've got some garlic. I didn't actually have much garlic left, so I've got one clove and a couple of little ones, but that will be fine. And then there's two other things that I want to put in my stock today, and it's out in the garden. So come with me while I go out and pick a couple of things from the garden that I'm going to add to this stock. So I'm going to pick quite a few, decent amount of parsley, maybe a little bit more, probably a good bunch like that. And the other thing that I'm going to use is in my greenhouse. And I have this celery growing, and the stalks aren't all that big yet. I know you're meant to sort of blanch them. You can see the celery growing like that, but I sort of haven't got around to doing that. I was curious to just see what happens if I leave it go, but I'm going to pull a few of these off. The actual leaves of the celery are wonderful, so even if you have some celery that you bought from the grocery store or farmer's market or whatever, you can just save the tops. Again, you can pop them in the freezer if you want, and they will be really lovely flavour to put into my into my stock. So I'll grab my parsley and my celery and I'll take that inside. All right, I've got everything that I need now. I've washed my celery and parsley. If you don't have celery, don't go out and buy some. It's fine. I don't always add it. If I have it, I will, and particularly the celery tops. But otherwise, I just stick with parsley most of the time. So this is how simple it is. I'm going to open up my chicken carcass and I'm going to pop that in. In fact, there's even a drumstick and a couple of wings in there that didn't that nobody wanted, and I figured I'm just going to put it all in together into the freezer. And carrots, sorry, don't bother with peeling or anything like that. Literally just chop it into pieces, chunks, and pop it in. Same with your onions, don't have to do anything fancy. I'm going to cut off the ends here, but I'm actually going to leave the skin on. The skin actually can give it a nice colour as well. So I'm just going to throw those in. There's really no precision here. It's really very simple and very rustic. You don't have to worry too much about what you're doing. So I've just cut, the onions into chunks, big chunks. So if you're using regular onions, one large or a couple of smaller brown onions, that's all you need to do. And just chop it into chunks and throw it in, skin and all. And then my parsley and celery, I'm just going to put it in like this. I don't need to chop it up because I will peel the garlic a little bit so that I can just chop it slightly so that the flavour comes out. But again, I'm not too fussed if a bit of skin and that goes in. But yeah, so you don't need to worry about chopping up your celery or your parsley or anything like that. Just throw it in as is, because you're going to strain all of that out at the end anyway when it's cooked. So you can see there, that's all of my chicken carcass, carrot, parsley, onion, garlic, and celery. I was thinking, what was the other thing? And I'm just going to fill that with water, not fill it, so just so that it just covers the chicken. You don't want to fill it up too high above because it'll be a lot more dilute. We want a nice, rich chicken stock. So I do it so it's just above the chicken carcass. That's fine. And if you're using a slow cooker, same concept, pop it into the slow cooker, just cover the chicken, maybe by about an inch or so above. Some of your parsley and that will float to the top, that's okay. And then pop the lid on, put it on low for, like I said, at least 6 to 8 hours. You can just pop it on in the morning, let it go all day, the longer the better. And then at the end you do the process that I will show you once I'm done with this. So I'll just show you what this looks like. Okay, so there you go. You can see my chicken carcass is okay. It's been several hours and the stock is ready. I actually was busy and just let it do its natural steam release, but if I'm pressed for time, I will let it do a natural steam release for a little while, so 10-15 minutes, and then I will manually release the rest of the steam. but it's actually all done itself because I got busy doing other things, which is perfectly fine. That's the great thing about this, is you can kind of just leave it and come back to it when you're ready. Same with if you're doing this in a slow cooker. After 8 hours or so, you can come back and then just take the lid off and follow these steps. So I've got a couple of containers that I'm going to put the stock in. Depending on how I'm going to use the stock and what I'm going to need it for, I'm using two sort of not large but medium-sized containers. Sometimes I use smaller ones and do several if I want to just store some in the freezer and I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to use them for. But I think I will end up using this stock on the weekend. So I'm just going to pop it into two containers. That will help it to cool down quicker rather than putting it in one large container. Not even sure. We'll see how it goes. I may even need another one, depending on how much there is. So I'll just take this off. And I'm going to show you what it looks like. Okay, so this is what it looks like. All cooked down. And if I grab a spoon, I'll show you it's a beautiful, rich stock. Lovely colour. That's perfect. Alrighty, so the other thing you just need is a strainer, because we want to strain out all of the herbs and skin and onions and so on. So really all I do is I just take out some of the stock and then strain it into the containers. And I have to say that it smells delicious. Okay, so that's what's left. Just a little bit of that chicken carcass and the vegetables. And I have this beautiful, rich chicken stock. Now, you can probably see there are still some tiny little bits in there. It's not quite as clear. If you wanted a really clear stock, you could strain that with something a little bit finer than the strainer that I used here. But I'm not too fussed. I'm quite happy with it as it is. But yeah, if you wanted to, you could just strain that with something a little bit finer. Okay, so that's it. I'm finished. I'm going to let this cool on the bench. And once it's cool, I will pop it in the fridge. And sometimes what you can do is, if there's a little bit of a fat layer on top, depending on your chicken and how much fat comes out of the skin, you could always take it out of the fridge after it's cooled and skim that fat off. I don't tend to bother. I think it's got nice flavour. So this chicken broth is quite dark. It's a very rich, dark chicken broth because I'm using a roast chicken. I do also make chicken stock or broth like this with just chicken pieces that haven't been cooked already. So things like chicken drumsticks, or you can just buy chicken carcasses that are raw. It doesn't quite have the depth of flavour, and it's a little bit more of I guess a lighter coloured chicken stock. Still perfectly fine, still tastes delicious. But I really like making chicken stock this way because it's using a carcass that I would normally have to just get rid of. So this way I'm actually making myself something that I can then use again. So I'm really, really using that chicken to extract as much as I can out of it before I'm finished with it. So I'm just going to let this cool on the bench, and once it's cool enough, I will pop it in the fridge. So that's it. That's how simple it is. If you have a slow cooker or a pressure cooker, pull it out and use your chicken carcass when you have a rotisserie chicken or a roast chicken, and make yourself some delicious, beautiful chicken stock that you can use for soup and stews and risotto and whatever else you use chicken stock for. You can also, of course, freeze it in smaller amounts. You may even measure it out in like cup amounts so that you've got a certain amount and you know how much to bring out for a recipe. But I'm, like I said, probably going to make some soup over the weekend with this chicken stock. So I'm just going to let it cool. And then when it's cool enough, I'll pop it in the fridge, and I'll use it up over the weekend. And if I don't, I'll then put it in the freezer for use another time. So thank you so much for joining me in my kitchen. I hope that that was useful for you. And if you've never tried making your own chicken stock, I really encourage you to have a go. It really is simple. And it is delicious. I have to say, it just trumps anything that you can buy from the store. Okay, that's it. Thank you so much, and I will see you next time.